If you finally created writing habits that should work for you, that felt good when you put them together, but then you don't actually use them and you don't get the writing done, you might be beating yourself up. It's easy to assume that somehow this is a personal flaw, but I want you to consider that it could be about something else that you might not have thought about. And that is that your subconscious mind might not be on board with this new plan. It's kind of like, you've set up that great home gym and you're all ready to go burn the calories and get down to the weight you want to get down to, maybe build the muscle you want to build, but then you actually don't do it. And it's like, why is this happening? Why am I resisting this when I've set up everything for it to be just perfect? Some part of us doesn't believe either that this whole system is going to work, or probably more likely that we can become this new person that we want to become. If the subconscious is not on board with what you're doing, then it's going to fight you. It's going to create this subtle resistance, and you're not going to be able to tell that this is where it's coming from. It's just going to show up. So you're going to have a planned time to write and you're not going to do it. You're suddenly going to find something else you have to go do. And it's often because there's something working underneath. The subconscious doesn't believe that you can become this other person. The subconscious doesn't believe that this system is going to work for you. Here's the truth that most writers don't understand or don't realize. I know I didn't for years. Your new writing habits, it doesn't just need to fit your schedule. It needs to fit your identity, who you believe you are. Our brains are set up to maintain where we are right now. It's the same as the body. The body is set up to keep you right where you are. So when you try to lose weight, I know I've done this, and I'm sure many of you have. You go through the process and things are working and you lose a few pounds, and then like within a couple of days, you've gained them back again. Why is this so hard? Because the body is set up to maintain a homeostasis, a balance, a keeping you right exactly where you are. You get to a certain weight, the body adapts to it, and the body says, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. And so then it really fights you when you try to change that and lose that weight. The same thing happens when you're writing a certain way. Maybe you're not getting the writing done. Maybe you've got a story sitting in your drawer that's been there for a couple of years. It's not getting done. So okay, I'm trying this new process. I put it all in place. I'm ready to go, but it's not happening. It's the same thing. It's your brain going, no, you're not the writer who gets things done. You're the writer who doesn't get things done. You're the writer who writes for a little bit and then you abandon it. Or you're the writer who whatever. The subconscious mind has this identity and it's going to hang on to it, because that's what we're built to do, is to hang on to where we are, to maintain that stasis of where we are exactly right now. So any big shift like that is a challenge. Your body and your mind is going to fight it. So you got this new process and you're trying to start it, and your subconscious mind is saying, oh, you're really hungry right now. You need to go get that brownie. Or is saying, oh, you really need to call so-and-so. You haven't talked to them for a while. Whatever the situation may be, these things spring up in your mind and you may not know where they're coming from, but it could be from this center of your subconscious that's trying to say, no, we don't want to become that person. We are this person. So the only way out of this kind of mental jail, you can put it that way, is to bring your identity into alignment with the person you want to become, the type of writer you want to become. And that takes a mindset shift. Let's look at 3 of the most common resistance patterns that I've seen in myself and in other writers that illuminates the subconscious mind's efforts to keep you right where you are, and how we can break out of those patterns. So the resistance pattern number 1 is just a simple identity mismatch. This occurs when the new writing habits you're trying to establish, or the new processes you're trying to create in your writing routine or your writing life, whatever it may be, somehow clashes with your established self-image. And so if this happens, that leads to resistance, that leads to this fight. Even if your new habits are perfect for you and are perfect for your creative wiring and your mindset type, it will still clash if it's not lining up with your established self-concept. This whole idea has been researched by scientists, and it's rooted in what they call the self-discrepancy theory. The theory says that all of us basically have multiple self-representations. We have the actual self, which is how we currently see ourselves. Then we have the ideal self, which is that person we want to become. In our case, most of us, it's best-selling writer or successful writer. And then we have what they call the ought self. And this is who we think we ought to be, or who we should be based on social pressures and societal norms. And so each of us has at least this many selves going on inside of us, and discrepancies between them can lead to resistance and fighting with ourselves. For instance, if your actual self does not align with your ideal self, which is what we're talking about here, your actual self, how you see yourself now, doesn't align with your ideal self, who you want to become, then there's going to be resistance. There's going to be a fight. So let's give an example. Let's imagine a writer who's finally found a routine that meets their creative mindset type. And if you don't know your mindset type, I've been talking about this the last couple of videos. You can get a free quiz down at the link below and find that out in just a few minutes. But let's imagine this writer knows their mindset type, has created a new routine that fits this mindset type. They're ready to go, but then they don't actually follow through. This can be because it clashes with how they currently see themselves as a writer, with their actual self. So let's say that you are a bastion type. You're someone who does really well with daily routines. You're tracking your progress. You know how many words you're writing every day or how much time you're spending on your writing. You're building up momentum as you go. And you've set up this simple new habit to fit with this type. You're going to write for 30 minutes every morning when you first get up. So you try this a couple times and you find that's really working for you. You like writing first thing. It inspires you. And after you write it first thing in the morning, you feel great the whole rest of the day. So you know this is working. But then after a few weeks of doing it, you start skipping it. You tell yourself that you're too tired that morning to get up. And then the next morning you're too tired to get up. And then the next morning you got to do something else the first thing in the morning, so you're not going to write. And then you start thinking, well, gosh, what am I doing? I should be pushing myself harder. I should be doing more. And you start feeling maybe guilty. Your self-talk starts to be negative. This isn't because the system you set up was wrong. It's because your vision of your writer self is still stuck in the place it was before you set up this new process or routine. So in a second, I'm going to walk you through some steps that are going to help you break out of this issue. But hang tight, because before we get there, I want to talk about two other resistance patterns that can show up. And they might help explain more about what's been holding you back. So resistance pattern number 2 is simply a fear of success. And this is one that I've never really understood myself. It's a hard concept to get a grasp on because I think we all want success. So this idea that we get somehow fear of success just seems weird. People talk about fear of success. Okay, whatever. You know, I want that success. I want to go toward that. I'm not fearing it. But I do understand more now about how this can show up. It can show up because it becomes an identity mismatch, like we were just talking about. Psychologist Martina Horner first talked about this back in the 1970s. She was the first one that kind of came up with this whole idea that we could actually be afraid of succeeding. And she found that people, especially high achievers, when I saw this, I was like, uh-oh, because that's me. I'm a high achiever. I love to achieve things. And so I'm like, uh-oh, could this be really more of an issue that could affect me? Because she found that especially high achievers could unconsciously associate success with negative outcomes. When you imagine success, when you're just thinking about it casually, you're not like really focused on it, but you're just thinking, about I'd like to be a successful writer, have some best-selling books or whatever it might be the case that you think success is, do you have thoughts like, well, that would be a lot of pressure, or I might be exposed to more judgment, or that might be really isolating. People might not really support me being super successful, or there's going to be all these higher expectations on me. Everybody's going to expect I'm going to be a certain way because now I'm successful. If you have any of those thoughts going on at all, if you notice any of those, even if they're really quiet, in the back of your mind, there could be a fear of success somewhere in your brain. And modern research has supported what Dr. Horner discovered back in the 70s. In fact, a recent study on motivation found that people tend to tie their self-worth to the outcomes that they're experiencing. So if you, for example, are about to publish your book and then you hold back, you don't publish it, or you're about to submit it to a publisher and then you hold back, you don't submit it. The fear of success could be at play here because studies have found that people tend to pull back, to stop, to pause right when their progress is about to peak, because success starts to feel risky, because it's like, if I do this, if I publish this book, and what if it does well, I'm going to have to change. I'm going to be someone different because now I'm going to have this successful book on the market or something like that. This can end up feeling scary or feeling risky and creating that resistance inside we've been talking about. Resistance pattern number 3, and this is also another tricky one. You're kind of like, really? Could I be thinking this? The resistance pattern number 3 is that you might think that writing has to be hard, and that if suddenly it is feeling easier, something's wrong. Okay, so let's dive into this. What does this mean? This one is tough because it can feel noble if writing is hard, or even, that we're more artistic if we struggle so much. It's a belief that struggle has to be part of the deal. And so if you have a system that matches your mindset, and writing starts to feel easier and more fun and like not nearly as hard as it used to, and if you have an identity that writing is supposed to be hard, it's supposed to be a struggle, and it's been that way all along in your life, and all of a sudden, la 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 la, you're having a good time because you finally found a process that fits with your creative wiring, that can again create that resistance and that internal fight, because you're like, wait a minute, this can't be right. Writing's supposed to be hard. Writing's supposed to be a struggle. I'm supposed to be, sacrificing for my art. So there's psychology behind this, and a lot of it is involved in our culture. We've all heard the word the starving artist. We've all admired those artists, in our past, and those people that have written the classics, and how much they suffered to write these classics, and what kind of lives they had, and how difficult it was, and they still managed to get their work done. And this is all kind of, celebrated and made to look as the best way to be an artist in some circles. If we kind of buy into that, and we find ourselves that the writing life is hard, and we struggle with it for a long time, then we can feel like, okay, we're like those struggling artists. And that kind of becomes part of our identity. This is connected to real psychological concepts, like one that's called self-handicapping, where we unconsciously make things harder for ourselves to protect this image we have of ourselves. An artist is supposed to be long-suffering. An artist is supposed to struggle in their lives. And so we kind of feel, maybe, if you relate to this, that things shouldn't be easy. We shouldn't be able to find systems that make writing a lot of fun. It should be a struggle. It should be hard. We should have to sacrifice. Let's say you're a heartsmith. This is type number 7 in my master writer mindset type system. And let's say you finally built a sustainable writing process that works for you. Before, because a heartsmith is very emotionally involved in their work, you may have experienced burnout. You may have suffered because you would be highly emotional and really intense in your writing, and then you would just feel exhausted after that. But then you find out that you're a heartsmith, you build a process that helps you recover from these emotional times, and you're actually having more fun with your writing, and all of a sudden, something's wrong. This can't be right. You start feeling guilty. You start wondering, am I coasting? Am I not doing this right anymore? In that case, you may start purposely making it harder. You may decide you need more revisions or stricter deadlines, or put more pressure on yourself to be more perfect, or whatever it may be. You may start kind of inventing ways to make the whole system harder for yourself. Why? Because your new system and how you feel with it is not matching what you had as an identity before of the struggling writer. We've talked about the 3 different resistance patterns and how they might show up an identity mismatch for you, and a clash between your actual self and your ideal self. The question then is, how do we shift this? How do we change this so that we're not fighting ourselves? So I'm going to give you a few steps to help you realign who you believe you are with the writing life that you're trying to build. The first one is to become really aware of your current identity and to name it. So we got to bring it out here into our awareness, because remember, all this stuff is kind of operating in the subconscious mind, and a lot of times we're not even aware of it. So we have to bring it out into our general awareness. So ask yourself, what kind of writer do I believe I am? Or you can modify and say, what kind of writer have I believed I need to be successful? Maybe you think you need to be the long-suffering artist. Maybe you think you need to be spontaneous all the time. Maybe you think you have to be wildly prolific. Try to find a way to name this writer that you think you need to be. The second step is to claim that new identity, even if it feels unfamiliar right now or even impossible right now. So you might answer this question: I'm the kind of writer who, and you fill in the blank. So before, maybe you were the kind of writer who struggled, or the kind of writer who found writing hard, or the kind of writer who never finished their work because of whatever reason. The new identity: I am the kind of writer who finishes a story a year, or the kind of writer who finds a lot of joy in writing, or whatever it might be, to kind of identify the kind of writer you want to become. And finally, you want to make small choices, don't bite off too much at once, that help reinforce this new identity you have. So choose one habit, just one, that reflects your new process you want to adapt. And do just the smallest little bit that you can do that moves you gently toward that new identity. What we want to do is kind of fool the subconscious mind into thinking this isn't as threatening as it thinks that it is. So it thinks you have this identity and you're trying to become this identity, and no, what we want to do is keep you in your old identity. So you want to just say, we're not doing all of that. We're just taking this little tiny step over here and make it a lot less threatening so that your brain is more likely to go along with it and it'll be easier for you to do this. So here's some examples of these tiny little steps you can take depending on your type. If you're a bastion, for example, and you thrive on steady and slow progress, you might say, okay, today I'm going to write for 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes. If you're a spark link, then you might say, you know what, I'm just going to text this one writer that I know and see if they might like to get together locally and write at a cafe for a half an hour someday. If you're a heartsmith, you might say, you know what, I experienced this intense experience the other day and I want to write about it. I'm just going to get started with the first 3 lines. You're just going to do something really small that moves you into this new way of approaching your writing that feels more like the type of writer you want to become, but it's not like you're taking a huge step, you're just taking a really small one. Then what you do is repeat those little tiny steps and repeat them often enough, and your new identity will gradually follow. What you're doing is taking your subconscious mind by the hand, so to speak, just saying, well, just take this one step today, and then tomorrow we'll take this other step. And gradually you're moving over to this other identity. So your mission of the week, if you choose to accept it, is simply to ask yourself 3 questions. Here's the first one. What kind of writer have I believed I need to be? Number 2, what kind of writer am I becoming based on my mindset type? And number 3, what one small action can I take this week to reinforce my new identity? Answer those 3 questions and you'll be on your way to actually using that new home gym you made in your house. No, to actually using your new writing process to get your story finished. If you want to keep building on this, again, if you haven't taken the free quiz, check out the link below. And if you're ready for something that's more of a deep dive and more practical, check out my Master Writer Mindset Type Playbook. It's a friendly, easy to use guide that's packed with mindset-based routines, mini rituals, and tools to help you build a writing life that really fits who you are. And if you missed the last video, what kind of creative brain do you have, where I explained the 7 mindset tips, you'll be able to check that out here at the end screen. I have that linked there. So good luck changing your writer identity, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.